Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all for so kindly coming to hear from me this evening, despite tomorrow being another working day. Many thanks to Anukulya Keshav Prabhu for his kind words of introduction and many years of friendship, receiving me so kindly here. This evening I'm going to speak on how to be steady in Krishna consciousness. It's an often asked question. Even just this afternoon, one young lady devotee asked me this very question, commonly asked question, how to be steady, and then corollary to that is how to even survive in Krishna consciousness. Because we see not so much here in Bharata, but in the Western world, people take to Krishna consciousness and they practice it, and they may, after a few weeks or a few years, or maybe even after many years, they just go away. It's not so common among persons of Hindu background. Not so common, but we see that also sometimes. Why is that? Well, Krishna bhuli sai jeev anadi bahimuk ataiv mayatare der samsaraduk. We always have the opportunity in this world to forget Krishna and become inimical to Krishna and try to enjoy this material world which is full of misery. But generally speaking, we do see that persons who, like I say, from a Hindu background take to Krishna consciousness, they tend to remain in it more than others who are not. That maybe because that cultural background is there. It can be difficult to practice Krishna consciousness. As you all know, in this secular world, in Kali Yuga in general, there may be opposition from family members, especially when you first take to it. At work or in school or college, they may say, what's wrong with you? What's this vegetarianism? And they may say, it's okay to do bhakti, but not too much. Yeah, you've all heard that, right? That's why you're laughing. Yeah. But outside the Hindu cultural ethos, people, they don't think it's okay to do bhakti. They think many people think it's just very, very strange. It's so different to their culture. So in many ways, despite the culture being spoiled here and into it to a large extent, there is still some cultural support, and often people, they may be skeptical at first, but they may be respectful also if you start following religious principles. That's not so likely to happen in the West. I'm talking very broadly here. In the Western world, when I was mercifully admitted into Srila Prabhupada's movement in the mid-1970s, it was largely considered to be a Hare Krishna devotee was considered something very, very strange and something almost wrong. By many people they considered it almost wrong. I'm talking in very broad terms. So it's much easier to go with the flow, isn't it? If everyone around you is eating meat, drinking wine, smoking cigarettes, or even being piously non-Krishna conscious. That's quite common here in Bengaluru, to be piously not Krishna conscious. To be a good Hindu or a good Jain, but not Krishna, not this line. That means you consider yourself a good Hindu and you go to temples and you don't eat meat most of the time. We know people say, I'm a vegetarian most of the time. 3 times a day I'm not, but the rest of the day I am. There are so many Hindu leaders who are encouraging people in pious non-Krishna consciousness. So some of them may be even quite impious and offensive to Krishna. Anyway, it's not only in the West, and more Bengaluru is becoming like the West anyway. But how to remain steady, how to keep on going, how to remain steady. We all have our ups and downs. Maya is tempting us all the time. We often hear devotees say that, well, when I'm in the temple, I'm in a program, I'm chanting, I feel very good in Krishna consciousness. But as soon as I step out, I feel Maya's attack. So actually Maya is attacking all the time, but when we're in the association of devotees and performing Krishna conscious activities, it's a good support, a good shield, kavach. We may not even feel Maya's attack, but it may be there even when we're chanting Hare Krishna. Some bad thoughts may come in our mind, or we may start to think, I'm singing very nicely, everyone is appreciating, especially if we're leading the kirtan. Or we may be attracted to the opposite sex members. It can happen. Maya is ready to attack any time, even in the temple, even in front of the deities, even in the association of devotees. Kshurasya dhara nishita duratyaya durgang patas tat kavayo vadanti. It's a very fine path, razor's edge. Who says? People who know what they're talking about. It's a difficult path to traverse. Now, of course, we know Parama Karuna Pahundui Jana Nitai Gaura Chandra Shaba Avatar Sara Shiromani Kevala Ananda Kanda. These 2 lords, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, they are the most merciful of all avatars. They give a process that is simply joyful. Chanting, dancing, taking prasad, discussing about Krishna. But Maya is always there. So in the same song, we have the warning also, Bishaya Charya, Shiroshe Mojya, Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari. Give up the prospect of sense gratification. Then we can actually chant Hare Krishna and enjoy the rasa of chanting Hare Krishna. Otherwise we might enjoy the rasa of tal, loy, sur, all these things, musical. That is mundane. So it is a valid consideration how to be steady and survive in Krishna consciousness. And especially we have to remember that not only is Maya there attacking us constantly, but she does more, she attacks us more when we try to become free from her. There are two phases of Maya. Avaranatmika vritti. That means just covering everyone. And she's not so much, but they're under her control. The Maya Baddha Jivas, they're under her covering and they're just in Maya, that's all. But when someone tries to come out, prakshepatmika vritti, throwing you back. Someone wants to escape and then she gets into the mode, now I have to throw you back. Just like everyone is in the prison, high security, no one can escape. But if someone starts to escape, or they're making plans to escape, or they do seem to have escaped, then there'll be special forces to catch them and throw them back. So this, when we try to come out of Maya's control, then she becomes more vigilant to bring us back. That's her job. It's her service to Krishna. To test, to see how sincere we are. One thing we should consider is that, there are so many things to consider, but now in human life, this human life, attained after many births, we have the opportunity to be fully Krishna conscious. And we may think, okay, that's good. But, when the word but comes, then all the problems begin. But let me just go a little carefully. Maybe I'll just keep something for the next life. And when we think like that, what are we doing? That's what we thought in the last life. And that's what we'll think in the next life. And we keep on going like that. And we never make it. And material life is miserable. It's not just something written in the books. If Krishna is very kind to someone, to a devotee, he will help them to realize how miserable this material world is. There's another way we can realize, by hearing. Actually, Krishna consciousness is supposed to be on the platform of love. I don't want mukti, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. But for us, we also need to hear about how miserable this world is as an incentive, because we're not on the platform of pure love. So we need to hear about how miserable this world is, and Krishna may help us in realization by experiencing it, to help us to become more determined to be Krishna conscious. I had an experience, I'm just saying from my own life, in 1977. It must have been September 1977. I had extremely painful abscess, which is like a boil which grows inside. It means fora, but it's not coming out, it's all inside. Extremely painful. So it was getting worse and worse. So I walked to the local hospital. That was in Lajpat Nagar, Delhi. That's where we had our ISKCON temple at the time. I was staying there. I walked to the local government hospital in extreme pain. And whoever lanced it, I don't think it was a doctor, they just had someone. It was all dirty, so many bandages thrown here and there with blood and flies, and it's just someone, there was no antiseptic, nothing, and just brought some scalpel and cut it. And he didn't put any anesthetic. And it was extremely painful. I don't remember now how painful it was, but I don't remember. So as I was walking back thinking I was going to pass out at any moment with extreme pain, it just struck me that I must have had this kind of pain and worse in every lifetime. I'd better be Krishna conscious. So it is a help to realize this. How to be steady in Krishna consciousness? Well, first of all, we have to come to the platform, or how to remain steady. Well, first of all, you have to become steady. You have to come to a certain platform. When people first come, just like Srila Prabhupada said, well, in the beginning we just invite you, you come, chant Hare Krishna, take prasad. He even said it's not required for everyone to take initiation. But then if we're going to be serious, we're going to take some vows. Be serious. What is the point of initiation? The point is to surrender our life to Krishna. Dikha kale bhakta kare atma samarpan. The initiation means that we are making the vow to fully give ourselves to Krishna. That's what we have to decide to do. How to be steady in Krishna consciousness? First of all, we should understand why we need to be steady in Krishna consciousness. That understanding can be there in a budding manner, basic manner, but by going on hearing and hearing and hearing, the process of hearing, that becomes more and more reinforced. That I have to be Krishna conscious. We have to have that conviction. And decide what I am doing with my life. I'm taking initiation. It's not just something like I get a certificate from the school. You passed your examination. But it is a commitment to be fully Krishna conscious. Our aim is to be fully Krishna conscious in this life. Now, we may not be able to be fully Krishna conscious right this moment, but our aim is there to be fully Krishna conscious, not half Krishna conscious. In other words, we can be steady in Krishna consciousness if we are very serious about our commitment to be pure devotees of Krishna. We hear about the lives of the great devotees. Today is the anniversary of the disappearance of Sri Abhiram Thakur. Now, you may just hear his name, But when he was present in this world, it was a tremendously powerful influence. That's why we remember him even after 500 years. Tremendously powerful influence of Abhiram Thakur. So not everyone is going to be on the level of Srila Prabhupada, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, all these great devotees. Although Srila Prabhupada would say, do as I am doing, he made it seem very easy to be fully Krishna conscious. He would often say, what is the difficulty? Once in France, he was speaking on Gita, the last verse of chapter 9. That's chapter 9, text 34, I believe. What is that verse? Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mang namaskaru. No. It's not mame vaishasi satyam te. Almost. Mame vaishasi yuktvaivam atmana madparayana. So it's very similar to the more often quoted verse which comes toward the end of the 18th chapter. So Srila Prabhupada opened the talk by saying, what is the difficulty? What is the difficulty to always think of Krishna? And in Prabhupada's presence, it seemed like the easiest thing in the world. And it shouldn't be difficult. We always have to think of something. Why not think of Krishna? So Srila Prabhupada wanted us to be like him. But we may not be like him in terms of being such a powerful acharya, but he came to this world, as do so many great devotees, Abhiram Thakur, to show us and help us how to be pure devotees of Krishna. And he gave us the process. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us the process. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jibe Daya Kari Saparshada Shriya Dhama Shaha Avatare Atantar Durlabha Prema Kari Bare Dan Shikai Sharanagati Bhakatera Pran. These are the opening words of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's series of songs called Sharanagati, which are very helpful for us who want to be pure devotees. Means Sharanagata. The first stage of being a pure devotee is being fully surrendered to Krishna. Dikha kale bhakta kare atma shamarpan. Atma shamarpan means Sharanagati, the path of taking shelter of Krishna. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jibe Daya Kari. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to be merciful to the jivas, appeared in this world along with his associates and his own dham, Navadvip Dham. He descended to this world. And he gave that extremely rare love of Krishna, which is up to the level of the gopis. How did he do it? What's the answer? Chanting Hare Krishna? Well, in this context, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, he taught the process of sharanagati, which is the very life of the devotees. So the process of, or the attitude of sharanagati is the very life of the devotees, those who are serious to be Krishna conscious. Srila Prabhupada quotes this in his purport to this verse, famous verse with Sharanam Mamekam Sharanam Raja. Take shelter of me only. He quotes the verse about Sharanagati. This used to be it used to be in this land of Bharata that such verses were well known Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishati vishvaso gotritve varnang tata atmanikshepa karpanye shadavidha sharanagati. It used to be, all these things used to be very well known. I remember reading in, was it Deccan Herald, I think it was, Hyderabad newspaper, maybe about 30 years ago. And it was quoted in the English paper. It said, by Singhavalokana Nyai. And the readers, it was presumed the readers knew what that meant. Nowadays, I don't think so. But in those days, they would put such things. And if you see Srila Prabhupada's writing in Bengali, before him coming to the West, he quoted this in such a manner that it's expected that well, he was quoting Radha Krishna, Dr. Radha Krishna, having misquoted it. So anyway, this point, what does it mean to be fully surrendered, to accept only that which is favorable in advancing in devotional service, to reject that which is an obstacle in devotional service, to think of Krishna as one's maintainer and protector, to fully throw oneself at Krishna, and to be very humble. In his Sharanagati series of songs, Bhaktivinoda Thakur puts the dainya first. That's the first thing he discusses. Humility. So this is all about why we should be committed in Krishna consciousness. But the real topic I'm taking up here is how to be steady. Well, this is part of it. Hearing such discussions help us to solidify our commitment. But first of all, we have to have that commitment that now my life is meant for being Krishna conscious. We have to make a decision that this is what my life is meant for now. Whatever I may have done in the past, now my life is meant for Krishna consciousness. I may have family, friends, business and work commitments, health problems, so many things. But this is the center of my life. And I have to take the process. How is this practically manifest in our life, this sharanagati process? By following the process of bhakti sadhana, as outlined in Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and as given to us by Srila Prabhupada, and we have to follow that day after day after day, as far as possible. Those who are in working life, actually in the West, people don't work such long hours, generally speaking. One Mataji there is nodding her head. Have you been to the West? Or maybe you have relatives. Everyone here probably has either been to the West or has relatives in the West. Or friends. So the work hours are much less there. So people have more time. But here in India, people work long, long hours and heavy pressure to work just to get by. So it can be difficult to do the minimum sadhana program that Srila Prabhupada gave to us. Began at 4:30 in the morning, went through to 9 o'clock in the morning. But whenever I ask householders or congregational devotees, how many of you have a morning program of 4:30 to 9? The answer is generally none, unless they're retired. Then they can do. Because there are so many commitments, and even to get up early can be very difficult due to coming back late from work. But we have to do it as far as possible. And as Srila Prabhupada writes, life should be molded in such a way that we cannot but think of Krishna 24 hours a day. So that should be the ideal for us to aim at. So if we can't rise so early so that we can do 4:30 Mangalarti every morning, at least try to take rest before 11, 12 o'clock, as I believe most people in Bangalore, they do. Huh? Not before 12 o'clock in many cases. Is it? Maybe especially in the hot season, which is now. Even in many cases there's no real need to, but with electricity then you can go on 24 hours theoretically. But sattvic life means to rise early, not to stay up late. Of course, if you're really very advanced, then nidrahara viharaka divijito, you can give up eating and sleeping altogether. But otherwise, even for health reasons, physical bodily health reasons, we should take rest early, rise early. Early morning is the best time for spiritual practices. And that's not only in Sanatan Dharma, but we find in Islam also. The first azan and namaz early in the morning. In Christian religion also, the monks and the nuns, they rise very early. The first Mass in the Catholic Church is at 7 o'clock in the morning, which is not so early, but it's pretty early for people who are working. So we have to mold our life as best we can. There is the work life, and it takes up so much of our energy, but try to mold our life so that we have time for being Krishna conscious. Make a schedule and stick to it as far as possible. Most people in the cities, everywhere, in the village, the schedule, if you're looking after cows, you have to rise early. If you're working in the fields, it's best to rise early in this season because it's too hot in the day to work. You want to work early in the morning. And in the cities, people have a schedule also based around their work time. So make a schedule for your spiritual practices and stick to it. Chanting, reading. If you can't come to the temple or satsang, if you're not able to come daily, then at least once a week. Now we have the mixed blessing and curse of the internet. It seems to be mostly a curse in dragging people's consciousness down, but it can be a great blessing that we can hear lectures, we can be present in Mangalarti. You can choose where do you like to go? Mayapur, Delhi, Bombay, there's so many temples. They have the Mangalarti. I personally prefer to be personally present. Even if I'm just with 3, 4, 5 devotees, I prefer that we all come together. So you can do in your family also, as far as possible. You rise early, have Mangalarti. Having a routine is very helpful. Anyway, you have to have a routine for your work life, but make a routine for your spiritual life. Otherwise, what happens is, if Mangalarti becomes optional, then it gradually doesn't happen. You have to make a rule. We have to do it. And it's good to have a fixed time for chanting japa. Otherwise, if you just have to fit it in here and there, you won't get good quality. I was saying about you can hear lectures online. We should also be careful who we hear from. Now that's a big topic which I'm not going to get into in detail here. But there are different kinds of speakers, even within ISKCON, and some are more trying to appeal to the public, and therefore their presentation is maybe a little mixed or light. But if you have already committed to Krishna consciousness, then less the entertaining style and more we should be more concerned to hear from those who are going to give us the message of Shastra, as Srila Prabhupada gave it, straightforwardly, clearly. We shouldn't be too much concerned with entertainment and jokes. If we need to hear talks which are entertaining and jokey, it suggests we really didn't come to the level that Srila Prabhupada wanted his disciples to be on, because he didn't speak in that style at all. He spoke very seriously. Sometimes there'd be a little humor like this, but generally very grave, very serious, because Krishna consciousness is very serious. Being properly situated. This is very important. Having a steady situation. It can be very distracting to our Krishna consciousness if our family life is very disturbed, or our economic situation is very disturbed. Some things we can't control. Materially well situated means we shouldn't always be in so much anxiety. If we have steady income, can be satisfied with that and not be so much aspiring to work harder, get ahead, earn more money. Then our focus goes away. Instead of our focus being on spiritual advancement, it becomes more on material advancement. And the two don't go together very well. And if you want to really get ahead in your job and become up in the company, you have to work very hard. Office politics. You have to always think how to please your boss. So if you can just do something steadily, have some steady income, not be so ambitious, then you can prosecute your spiritual life very well. There is some theory that if you get ahead in your job and people will take you more seriously, your preaching. It may be, but I see it seems this kind of attitude seems to divert devotees' attention away from putting the time into Krishna consciousness. It takes time to do sadhana. And if we're thinking I'll get ahead in my career, then I'll preach and people will listen to it. But we won't have the spiritual potency to impress them. It's like someone saying that, well, first I'll become a multi-billionaire and then, or I'll become a famous rock star. I've heard this one so many times. And then people will then I'll preach. But potency in preaching comes from surrender to Krishna. One may have a big position or not. Of course, if someone's already in that position, all well and good. But if we're thinking I'll get a big position, well, you know what? Everyone's thinking like that in the whole society, and it's a big competition, and there's no... Most of those who want to be big in society don't make it because there's not that much room at the top. So be steadily situated. Sthane sthita is a general advice. If you're in a steady situation, stick to that. Go on with your Krishna consciousness. Being properly situated also means in one's ashram. Grihastas, they should not be interested in... Vaishnav Grihastas shouldn't be interested in gross sense gratification, of course, but they're also not sannyasis. So, some kind of false renunciation, that is not required. We don't see that so much here in India. It's quite common in the Western world that devotees, they're married, but they think, oh, I'm not going to love my children, that's Maya. Or artificially trying to be more renounced than they are. Or maybe that a sannyasis like a grihasta without a wife. That can also be there. So one should be properly situated. We're saying be steady in Krishna consciousness, but first of all we have to get on the right track, because if we're steady on the wrong track, then we're going in the wrong direction, aren't we? We have to be properly situated. Understand what we're doing in Krishna consciousness. It's not that difficult to understand. Srila Prabhupada often said that Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple. We can be our whole life in Krishna consciousness, but all mixed up, wrong ideas. So we have to get the right idea. There were so many upper sampradayas. Sahajiyas came out after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So they may have been in Krishna consciousness, even chanting Hare Krishna, but they're not accepted as properly situated devotees by those who are actually in the line of Krishna consciousness. Some of them may have very grossly wrong ideas. Just like now it's become very popular in North India, some Baba in Vrindavan who follows one sampradaya that says, well, you don't need to follow all these rules. Just be like the gopis. They didn't follow Ekadashi. They didn't do any sadhana. They just loved Krishna. So that's become very popular. People love it. Just love Krishna like the gopis. But then why did Rupa Goswami, who's a gopi from the spiritual world, on the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, give us the process of bhakti sadhana? Because we need to follow that so that we can become steady in Krishna consciousness and purified, and you just can't jump into Rasa Leela and imagine that you're there. It doesn't happen like that. But it's very popular. It's becoming very popular in North India. Some Baba speaks, so I'm told, I haven't listened to him, speaks very nicely about Radha Leela and all these things. I was just reading today one discussion Srila Prabhupada had in which someone was asking him about Gopi Leela, and Prabhupada said, don't talk about that. Told him, don't talk about that. First you understand who is Bhagavan. These are all very high topics. You may think, well, Gopi Leela, that's what we should talk about. Yes, But there's some qualification first. And Srila Prabhupada gave the example, you may want to put your child is just going to school, you may want to put him in the 10th grade immediately. Why should he bother with all this learning to read and write? Just put him in the 10th grade immediately. But that will not help him, rather it will completely stop his progress. If he says, I'm in the 10th grade, he may be physically put in the 10th grade, but he doesn't understand anything. And he might even learn some of the words and some of the things they're saying, but he doesn't understand anything. One who does understand can understand that he doesn't understand, but those who don't understand might think that he does understand. So we should get our whole life on track very clearly. Take it easy, take it steadily, step by step. Praying for Krishna's mercy. Avoiding offenses is very important. Because offenses can destroy our whole Krishna consciousness. At the same time, we should be very careful not to, in the name of avoiding offenses, not to think that everything everyone does is all okay. It's not necessarily all okay. But it's best that we don't make a big thing of minor faults, overlook minor offenses. It will be in the society of devotees that we're all coming here from the rough, tough world outside, and we may interact with each other sometimes in ways which are not the best ways of Vaishnavas, but we should try to act with Vaishnavas as Vaishnavas should, and try not to think badly of Vaishnavas, even in our minds. It can be difficult, admittedly. Don't make a career of Krishna consciousness. Push ourselves forward. It may be that we become prominent, but that shouldn't be our aim or our desire. Our desire should be to always be a servant. And we should always think, in whatever we're doing, does Krishna want me to do this? Will Srila Prabhupada be pleased by my doing this? Will my Guru Maharaj be pleased by my doing this? It's a very good meditation. As I was saying, we may become noticed or prominent. We may be, but that shouldn't be our aim. But if we do manage to do something which is good in Krishna consciousness, we should always think it's only possible by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, Guru and Krishna. Srila Prabhupada did the most unimaginable, amazing service of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. And he made a tremendous effect in India, which you might not be able to even recognize now, because it was so impersonalistic. When I first came here in 1976, everything, the whole of Hinduism was so impersonalistic, and preaching that God is just an imagination, and there's big Swamis were preaching like this. Srila Prabhupada has largely changed the discourse, made a tremendous effect. But he always gave credit. He said, if I've done anything wonderful, that is all due to the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. He would always say that. He never took the credit for himself. Things will be difficult. There will be challenges. If there are many challenges, we can think this is Krishna's mercy. Krishna is sending this for my purification. Be thankful for it. We're saying be steady in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we see devotees are steady for some time, and then some crisis comes in their life. Their mother dies, severe family problems. Everyone has some crisis in their life. They may have some terrible accident, or their children may have some terrible accident. And in many cases, in some cases, they lose faith in Krishna. That should not be. There will be very difficult. Well, it's not, maybe not for everyone, but for most people, especially in this horrible Kali Yuga, things are going to happen. It can just happen suddenly, with no previous warning. So life is going on as usual, very happily, and then all of a sudden your daughter gets killed in a road accident. It's not pleasant even to say it, but these kind of things do happen. So we have to, in such situations, somehow or other try to see that Krishna's hand is there. It may be very difficult to see it. It may not be so severe and sudden and shocking. It may be long time financial struggle, so many things. But we always have to see that whatever situation I'm in, that is Krishna's mercy for my purification. If we can see that, then we can survive in Krishna consciousness. I'm talking about surviving, because we may not even survive. Remember, Maya is very strong. We are very small. Maya is very strong. Mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. We may stop taking shelter of Krishna. I know sometimes that happens. Devotees get so disturbed in some situation, they say, I can't chant. Today I can't chant. My mind is too disturbed. But that's when we should chant more. Or call out to Krishna more. Remember always that we are in this material world. Don't expect a favorable situation. We're on a boat going back to Godhead. The lotus feet of Krishna are a good boat for crossing the ocean of material existence, or this human form of life is a good boat for crossing the ocean of material existence. But this ocean, there'll be many storms. We can't swim across that ocean, but if we're on a good boat, it may get rocked by the currents, the big waves, the storms, but we have to stay on the boat. Hridehamadhyam sulabham sudurlabham plavan sukalpo guru karnadharam mayanukulena nabhasvateritam puman bhavabdhim nataret sa'atmaha. Krishna warns in Bhagavad Gita that we have this human body which is like a suitable boat for crossing the ocean of material existence. And it's very rarely attained, but now we got it. And if we're fortunate to have the proper boat for crossing the ocean of material existence, okay, we got a boat, but we don't know how to pilot it, then we need a good captain. If we get a good captain in the form of the Guru, and we have the favorable winds of Krishna's instructions in Shastra, Krishna says that if anyone having all these advantages fails to cross the ocean of material existence, they're simply killing themselves. So we should hear these things, make a resolve, stick to it, go on hearing, keep good association, take guidance as needed from those who care for us, help us in our spiritual life. It's not an easy journey. It is in some ways, it's very easy to chant Hare Krishna, but Maya will give many tests. But how to remain steady? Well, one thing is just to do it. I remember some years ago one devotee asked me, how is it that you get up every morning, early in the morning? I don't think of that. I just do it, that's all. How do I get up? Well, I don't know. I don't really think about it. It's just something I'm doing and I'm going to go on doing it as long as Krishna gives strength in this body. So how do you keep on eating? I don't know. You should do it, right? So we need spiritual food. We need spiritual food. Be afraid of Maya. That's one thing Srila Prabhupada said about his disciples. He said, they're not afraid enough of Maya. Be afraid. She's always there. She's pulling us. So keep strong. Stick strongly to Krishna's lotus feet by keeping association of devotees. Commitment to our spiritual practices. That's the essence of what I'm talking about here. Commitment to our spiritual practices. It may not be always possible. Just like tomorrow morning, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be here for Mangalarti or not. We want to leave before that because I have to go to the airport early. But if we leave early, we'll sing on the way. It won't be the same as a full Mangalarti. So sometimes we have to make some adjustment. But don't make it too much and too often. So there's some general ideas. It's a commonly asked question. So I just gave some general ideas. So far, by the mercy of all the Vaishnavas, I've been able to remain doing it for all these years, so I guess I can talk about it now. I pray for the mercy of the Vaishnavas that I may continue. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Today we have been very fortunate to get the association of Vigilance, the Vikasa Maharaj, and to hear from Maharaj. Let us convey our gratitude to Maharaj, the loudly chanting Hare Krishna mantra.
I'll also tell Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Were there any questions first before you talk? There could be so many questions on such topic. Then people will bring specific questions, just like, well, my family members are not supportive, what do I do? For very personal situations, it's better to get some personal guidance. Any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for a very wonderful class and you explained many points, how to be steady. My question is, one point was that be properly situated. So that being properly situated is with respect to spiritual life first or with respect to material life? Because one statement is also there like that material life, material well-being follows spiritual well-being.
Sorry, I didn't understand. Material life, what?
Means material well-being follows spiritual
material
well-being follows spiritual well-being. So if someone is spiritually situated very nicely, then then is it necessary that he will always be materially situated also very nicely?
Well, the thing is that if we're in family life, which means most devotees, then the way the world is, we have to put a lot of our time and attention into economic matters, family matters, social matters. So if we say put our spiritual affairs first, all right, but Rupa Goswami also warns not to be negligent in ordinary dealings. So both considerations are there. If you think, now I'll just sit and chant Hare Krishna. Well, actually, if you have enough faith and you do that, then the principle of yoga kshemam vahami aham comes in. But generally that's not recommended, because to just artificially try and make yourself a Paramahamsa overnight.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. My question is that because of this material life is consuming lot of our time, almost 80% of our time daily, traveling, working, everything. So how do you suggest us to manage time with Krishna consciousness equally with material life?
Well, as you're young, you could join one of... I didn't finish what I was going to say. I could have said you could join Wipro. But I didn't say that. You could join one of our temple communities or farm communities. Farm communities are principally for Grihastha devotees who want to live in devotee association all the time, with Krishna very clearly in the center. So that's a possibility, for young people especially. Or if you're older, then you can retire, go live in Vrindavan. Otherwise, yes, it's a fact. 80% of your time is taken up. But even if you live in a farm community or a temple, still time goes in eating, sleeping, bathing, all these things. We have to minimize as far as possible. And then, even while traveling to work, you can listen to lectures, make the best use of a bad bargain, like that. But it is a fact. The work life it's really, it sucks out your energy. The Bangalore life is horrible. It's not a joke, really. You see people going to work, going to college, sitting in the bus, getting some sleep on the way to the college or the work or whatever. No one looks even slightly happy. Sada samudvigna deo asadgrahat. They're always in anxiety due to having accepted the temporary and the unreal as real. It's a horrible situation. So we have to preach also. Anukulya Kesha Prabhu is always reminding us. We have to preach also. Not only do we have to have time for our own sadhana, but we have to try to communicate it to others also.
My question is why you started calling me Ankulya? Because earlier, if olden days, when devotees used to call me Ankulya, you only said there is no Ankulya name.
Well, I thought
Only
that's what it was.
you corrected only the uncool. Then I asked my Guru, he said what name I gave. He said uncool. Then he said, you tell devotees why they are calling you uncool here.
Oh, well, I thought everyone was saying that. So, okay, anukul, that's better.
Yes. You only corrected this
Okay.
actually.
I'm going with the flow. But now everyone's saying anukul, is it? Okay. So, Hare Krishna. Yeah. All right, well, yeah, everyone has to go to work, and I have to go to the airport.
Hare Krishna Maharaji, please accept my respectful obeisances. Maharaji, this commitment, as you ended the lecture with the commitment, so we should be very strict with our commitments. But along with, we also have to balance of the relationship with the devotees. So sometimes if I am very strict in my commitments, I may tend to be very strict with the relationship with the devotees. So how to maintain that balance?
Because of commitment to sadhana, we cannot balance relationship with devotees. What does that mean? Someone wants to talk to you and you don't because you want to chant your rounds? Something like that? Is that an example of that? Anyway, I don't know, it sounds too complex. If just go on in good spirit and do what you need to do, and Krishna will give you good intelligence. It doesn't sound like it should be a major problem, that because of sadhana I don't have a good relationship with devotees. I don't see how that should be.
Let's say, Maharaji, instance, for example, if I want to do morning sadhana, and let's say there is some situation in the center temple which has to be solved first, but I sit and chant, and while the other devotees are in hurry and dealing with that situation, that problem. So here, like, if I am be with them and can do sadhana at later times along with devotees when they're doing, so like this type of situation.
I don't know the details of the situation, so it may be that you're just being a rascal. Now I spoiled my relationship with you. Is there such a pressing situation that everyone has to stop their sadhana? Of course, it may be that the building's on fire, so you think I'll just sit and chant Hare Krishna, but then it would make more sense in such a situation to interrupt your sadhana and call the fire brigade. But like I say, I don't know the details of the situation. In general, we should be not very easily compromising on our sadhana. But actually all the time there are all kinds of things come up. Okay, we'll finish there as it's getting late. Yeah.